agree
I'm
about the body
asking you,
parts
do
of
all
Allah.
Christians agree with you on the essence energy?
Okay, sense. And if Gregory Palamas makes this mistake, I will call out Gregory Palamas for the same mistake. Athanasius did not say that. What's your point?
My point is, and that's why I wanted to address it before, that you're using terminology here in the park that you don't actually understand. My question is to you, do you believe that anything that has a beginning in time is created?
Anything that has a beginning in time is created, yes.
You believe that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Things can have a beginning in time that are uncreated, like the energies of God, the actions of God.
So why did you initially say yes?
Because I was just thinking about created things.
Okay, so you believe things can have a beginning in time
Yes.
and not be created.
That's correct.
About the energies.
Okay.
Explain your understanding of the energies of God.
It-
Start there.
It's what God does.
It's what God does.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you give an example? Because
So-
probably a lot of people don't know what that
Fair
means.
enough.
What
I'll
energies
give you
are.
an example. So one of the attributes of Allah is that he is the creator. Now, that presents a logical problem, obviously, because Muslims believe that Allah has always been the creator, even though Allah hasn't always created. Which
Yeah,
is another
that's what I want to talk about.
So that's an irrational contradiction. You're not a creator until you create. Christians, because of the energy and essence distinction, don't have that problem. Because what we say is that God becomes the creator when he creates. Athanasius did not say that. The quote actually said that God has the power to be the creator.
And that's what
I
creator
don't
means.
deny that. But to be a creator, you actually have to create.
So can you have energies which don't have a beginning? Meaning eternal.
Yeah, let's be clear about my knowledge of the theology of Gregory Palamas. It's something that I'm studying. I don't claim to be an expert. So I want to state from the beginning that if I say something in error, I'm open to being corrected by those that know better, like Hugh Branson Johnson, the guy that you know. So I am open,
Or maybe me.
I'm open to be corrected. Yeah.
Now I'm asking if there are any energies which don't have a beginning that are eternal.
I couldn't answer that.
You don't know?
I don't know Gregory Palamas's position enough to answer that question.
But I'm saying that's basic and fundamental to this discussion.
And what's your point?
My point is, and that's why I wanted to address it before, that you're using terminology here in the park that you don't actually understand.
Well, no, I think we make a distinction between the energies of God and God in himself, the intrinsic and extrinsic qualities of God.
Gregory Palamas talks about creating being an energy of God that is eternal. But you didn't know that.
And?
That's my point. You're criticizing, the point is, you're critiquing the Muslim point of view and attempting to represent the essence energy distinction, but you haven't read Palamas, you don't understand Palamas,
These are all
and what
frivolous
you're,
points.
no it isn't, because you're critiquing a position which at the same time, your own position that you're representing is in agreement
Jake,
with.
so it's a completely frivolous point, my knowledge of Gregory Palamas in terms of my critique of Islamic theology. Now, I stated quite honestly and quite openly that I'm learning the theology of Gregory.
You're learning right now.
Sense. And if Gregory Palamas makes this mistake, I will call out Gregory Palamas for the same mistake.
Wow,
but it
really?
makes no sense to say that someone is a creator before they've created.
So God, you don't think, can have the attribute of providence from eternity past?
I mean, logically that seems to follow. I've got no problem with the idea that God has always had the ability to create, that he has always had the ability to have providence. Got no problem with that. So the difference between our two theologies is that Christians create a distinction between the essences and the energy, whereas Muslims maintain that Allah is a monad, a tawheed, a one.
So when I asked about providence and creating, you said, yeah, that makes sense. God can't have providence from eternity past when he can't be providential over anything.
I retract that statement.
You yourself are claiming to represent. That's the incoherence. Why? Because you have no idea about Gregory Palamas. You've never read the Triads. You don't understand his theology.
I am not wrong in my understanding of the energies. The energies are the actions of God. They are what God has done in the world. But the reality is, when we look at what Islam teaches, if they are going to use the essence-energy distinction as a defense to their theology, then they must admit that God is not a monad, that within the oneness of God there is a plurality, because very centrally to the whole point of Gregory Palamas' argument is that the energies are plural. So I'll ask you again, because you avoided it. Are you saying that all of the Muslims here who for 5 years have told me that God is one, that he is a singularity, a monad, that they're all wrong and that there is a plurality within the oneness of God?
As I said again, Gregory Palamas says that in terms of creating, in terms of God's providence, he's directly contradicting what you're claiming about the essence energy doctrine.
Jake, you've got to listen to what I've said. So what I said on that issue of the providence, I'm happy to retract my statement. You could got away from the fact of the plurality within the oneness of God.
Nobody's questioning that. Everybody believes in multiple attributes. You're just stating an obvious fact.
The essence of God, the essence
Correct.
of Allah.
Yes.
Are the attributes of Allah, does the essence of Allah, is it shared amongst the 99 attributes?
What are you talking about? I don't even understand the question.
You see, this is the point. If you're saying that Allah has 99 attributes, and let's move on to his body parts, because I think this.
I know you want to move on.
Yeah, we are going.
You want to move on.
Jake, why are you interrupting?
Because it's hard on you. What's happening is hard on you right now.
No.
It's hard on you. I know it is.
We can both do the interruptions, but
I know it is.
When I start interrupting, Jake. So the reality is, Muslims talk about Allah as a monad. And they use that as an argument against the idea of the Trinity. They say that one can't be three and three can't be one, but what they're saying Right, so the energies are God's actions. Is that also correct?
Not totally, not necessarily.
Right. So in terms of the energies that are uncreated, things like the mind, the will, I'm guessing that's what you're talking about.
What do you mean?
So we're talking about the mind of God, which is not an action, it's just there. The will of God is not an action, it's just there. Are we talking about that? Are you defining those as energies?
This is what I'm saying. You don't know what the energies are.
I'm asking you, Jake.
What's your
are
position?
You defining?
What's your position?
Don't answer a question with a question.
What's your position on it? Because you're representing essence, energy, theology, but you don't know it.
Jake.
You don't know it.
I've never stated to be an expert of Gregory Palamas.
Why are you representing something in the park that you don't understand?
See, the thing is, you get upset if you're interrupted, but you were happy to interrupt me.
Who said I'm upset?
Well, by the way you...
I'm not upset.
Right. Go on.
I'm not upset.
So, Jake. Whatever my failings are in my knowledge of how Gregory defines the energy essence,
I'm asking you, do all Christians agree with you on the essence energy distinction?
No, of course not.
Bob doesn't understand Christian theology. I have to teach him. I have to teach him what Saint Athanasius said. I have to teach him what Saint Gregory Palamas says. Now, the incoherence is not in Islamic theology. The incoherence is within Bob. And don't worry for the Christians watching, I'm not going to put it on Christian theology. Why? Because I can actually read Palamas myself and he understands the point. Just as Saint Athanasius did when he said that God can be a maker or creator in the sense that he has the ability to create, which is exactly what Muslims say. The act of creating itself has a beginning in time. Those are two different things from the ability to create and the expression of the attribute, which is what Muslims have always said, and you just don't understand it, Bob. So maybe you've been talking to the wrong people, or maybe you don't understand Islamic theology. Bob is attempting to represent Christian theology. He's acting as if all Christians actually agree with his theology, but they don't. Even St. Gregory Palamas, who is the one who crystallized essence energy distinction, doesn't agree. He tells you that creating and providence are eternal energies of God. But yet Bob doesn't know that because he thinks that the energies of God are limited to God's action. He couldn't even answer the question as to whether or not there are eternal energies. Imagine that. Bob came here representing essence energy distinction and doesn't know if there are energies that are eternal. I want everybody to witness this.
Now, Jake has obviously got something that he wants to drive home about me, that I am ignorant of Gregory Palamas. Great. I'm ignorant of Gregory Palamas.
Thank you. Why am I bringing this point home? And I keep harping on the same point because Bob is here in the park attempting to represent Christian theology and the essence-energy distinction, but he doesn't even know whether or not you can have eternal energies, which is the very basics of Gregory Palamas' theology. Why am I bringing this point home? And I keep harping on the same point because Bob is here in the park attempting to represent Christian theology and the essence-energy distinction, but he doesn't even know whether or not you can have eternal energies, which is the very basics of Gregory Palamas' theology.
Theistic divine simplicity and Gregory Palamas' energy essence distinction, and the fact that not all Christians agree. So what point does he make? All he's got one point to make, which is that I don't know everything about Gregory Palamas. That's his only point.
No, the point is this. No, what I've come here to demonstrate, which is clear to the audience, I hope, is that Bob is inadequate to have these conversations. He doesn't even understand. Forget about knowing everything of Gregory Palamas. I certainly don't, but he doesn't even understand the basics of the conversation. He can't answer as to whether or not there are energies which are eternal, which is foundational to his entire belief set. So, he also doesn't want to highlight the fact that Christians on these basic points, actually some of them agree with the Muslims and not him, Gregory Palamas, and also St. Athanasius. But one last point, the main problem with Bob is he doesn't understand his own Christian theology. He has a hodgepodge of all different views, and because he doesn't understand them and uses basic just catchphrases, the problem is he's putting things together that are incoherent. So the incoherence is with you, and many other Christians are waking up to the fact, such as Ben. Thank you.
What I want to point out to you guys is Jake came here with a single ambition, and that is that he just wanted to do an ad hominem attack upon me, which is to say that I'm no expert of Gregory Palamas, that I'm no expert at Christian theology. Well, I've never claimed to be. So what? Do you think that most of the people in this park are experts on the topics that they talk about? Jake doesn't seem to understand the park very well. And notice how Jake appealed to Ben. This, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly the fruits of division and sectarianism. It helps the enemies of the Christian faith.
They do.
That's what you saw, Jake doing that. And I would dispute whether he is being fair in his understanding of Gregory Palamas, whether he's being accurate in his understanding of Gregory Palamas. At no point did I deny that energies are eternal. I didn't say that.
I think the point's proven already.
I don't